Paris, 1925. A man stands at the window of the Hôtel de Crillon, overlooking the Place de Concorde. A scar runs down his left cheek, souvenir from his university days. Victor Lustig is reading the morning papers, articles about the Eiffel Tower, how it's rusting, how maintenance costs are astronomical, how the city might need to tear it down. Most people read this and think, what a shame. Lustig reads it and thinks, opportunity, because in 2 weeks he's going to sell the Eiffel Tower to a scrap metal dealer who will pay him 70,000 francs for 7,300 tons of metal that Lustig doesn't own. And the genius is, the dealer won't go to the cops. May 1925. 5 of Paris's most prominent scrap metal dealers receive official letters on government stationery with embossed seals and stamped signatures. An invitation to a confidential meeting at the Hôtel de Crillon. The letter says the matter is urgent, sensitive. The Deputy Director General of the Ministry of the Post and Telegraphs requests their presence. All 5 men accept. It smells like money. The meeting room is elegant, decorated with crystal chandeliers and mahogany panels. A well-dressed man greets them at the door. Expensive suit, silk tie, bearing of someone who belongs in a room like this. He introduces himself as the Deputy Director General. His French carries just the slightest hint of an accent, charming, aristocratic. He thanks them for coming on such short notice. Gentlemen, he says, what we discuss here must remain absolutely confidential. They nod. Of course. The government has made a difficult decision. He pauses. He lets the weight settle. We are going to dismantle the Eiffel Tower. Silence. One of the dealers starts to speak, but the deputy director raises his hand. I know it's painful, but the structure is deteriorating beyond repair. The maintenance is bankrupting the city. We've conducted studies. The decision is final. But we cannot announce this publicly. Not yet. There would be an outrage. Which is why we need to move quickly and quietly. He walks up to the map on the wall and points to the tower. 7,300 tons of scrap metal. Current market value is substantial. We're offering the dismantling contract to either one of you. But discretion is paramount. If this leaks, the deal is canceled. If you accept these terms, you'll submit sealed bids by the end of the week. The dealers exchange glances. This is huge. Once in a lifetime. They're already calculating margins, profit, and logistics. The meeting ends. The deputy director shakes each man's hand. Remember, he says, hush, hush. Over the next 3 days, the deputy director arranges private meetings with each dealer, getting to know them, assessing them. One, in particular, catches his attention. André Poisson. Poisson is new to Paris, recently arrived from the Provence. New money, desperate to prove himself, eager to break into the inner circles, to be taken seriously. He wants his contract more than he wants air. Lustig can see it all over him. And that's when he knows Poisson is the mark. Lustig invites him to a private meeting at the cafe near the Champs-Élysées. Lustig looks uncomfortable, apologetic almost. Monsieur Poisson, I shouldn't be telling you this, but I wanted to speak with you privately. Poisson leans forward. These government contracts, Lustig says carefully, they're not awarded purely on merit. Do you understand what I'm saying? Poisson understands perfectly. How much, he says. Lustig names a figure, not enormous, but substantial enough to be believable. A bribe, a facilitation fee, the cost of doing business. Poisson doesn't hesitate. This is how Paris works. Everybody knows that. 2 days later, Poisson submits his bid along with a separate envelope. Cash. Fix. Lustig congratulates him. The hook is in. The contract is yours. We finalize the paperwork next week." Days later, Lustig boards a train to Vienna. With him, suitcases full of cash. Back in Paris, Poisson waits for the paperwork. Days pass, he hears nothing. It's not unusual. The wheels of the government turn slowly. After a week, he calls the Ministry of the Post and Telegraphs. They've never heard of any plan to dismantle the Eiffel Tower. Makes sense, it was need to know. But when they tell him they've never heard of the Deputy Director General, that in fact the position does not exist, he falls back in his chair. He realizes, slowly, horribly, what happened. He's been swindled. He doesn't go to the police because admitting he was conned would destroy him. His reputation, his business, his credibility. Everyone would know he was the fool who tried to buy the Eiffel Tower. So he stays silent. Lustig by now is in the wind. But one successful con isn't enough. 6 months later, Lustig returns to Paris. Same con, same hotel, same forged government documents, just different dealers. This time it goes wrong. One of them grows suspicious and goes to the police. Lustig flees France before he's questioned. Minor setback. No biggie. He's already made a fortune. Now, this is a cool story about selling the Eiffel Tower, but it's more than that. It's a story about understanding desire, about recognizing what people want to believe, about a man who could read human nature like other people read a newspaper. The question isn't how Lustig sold the Eiffel Tower. The question is, why did anyone believe him? The exact details of Victor Lustig's early life are murky. He lied about almost everything. But here's what we know. He was born around 1890, likely in Poisson, Bohemia, now the Czech Republic. His father may have been a local official or merchant. Either way, middle class, respectable. Victor's future seemed clear. Study, become a professional, and settle down. But Victor had other plans. At university in Paris, he studied languages: German, English, French, Italian, and Spanish. Eventually, he spoke all 5 languages fluently. Not because he loved literature, but because language is power. The right accent opens doors. The right phrase disarms suspicion. He could be Austrian in Vienna, French in Paris, American in New York, whoever he needed to be. But he wasn't just studying languages. He was studying people. How they make decisions, what they want, what they fear, how they reveal themselves without realizing it. He developed a taste for gambling. One night there's an incident. He sleeps with the wrong woman. Her boyfriend isn't too thrilled about it. In the confrontation, the boyfriend slashes Victor's face with a knife, a scar from his left cheek to his jawline. For most men, this would be disfiguring. For Lustig, it becomes part of the character. He starts telling people that he got the scar in a duel, that he's part of an Austrian aristocratic family. Well, money. The scar makes the story credible. It adds danger, mystery, romance. And everyone wants to believe that they're talking to a count. By his early 20s, Lustig is working the transatlantic passenger ships, the luxury line, first class, where the money lives. Wealthy Americans heading to Europe, wealthy Europeans heading to America. They're bored, drunk, and looking for entertainment. Lustig is charming, impeccably dressed, and always has a story. He plays cards, runs rigged games, and sells fake investments. But he's disciplined. He never gets greedy. He just takes enough to avoid suspicion. Never pulls the same con twice on the same voyage. Always moves on before anyone realizes they've been had. He's not doing this because he needs money. He's doing it because he's good at it, because he understands something fundamental about human beings. We don't see what's there. We see what we expect to see, what we want to see. And if you understand that, you can convince anyone of anything. By the 1920s, Lustig is working both sides of the Atlantic, Paris, London, New York, and Chicago. He uses dozens of different names: Count Victor Lustig, Robert V. Miller, Robert Duval, different identities for different jobs. By 1925, he's been arrested more than 40 times, but he keeps slipping away, skipping bail, escaping custody, bribing officials. Somewhere along the way, he develops a system, a set of principles for manipulating people. Be a patient listener. People love to talk about themselves. Let them. Never look bored, even if your target is tedious. Stay engaged. Wait for the other person to reveal their politics, then agree. Never contradict, never argue. Let them feel smarter than you. If they think they're in control, they'll never suspect. Never discuss illness unless they bring it up. Keep things optimistic. Never get drunk. You need to stay sharp, always. Never be the first to bring up money. Let them think it's their idea. These aren't just rules for con artists. They are the arrows in the quiver of salesmen, politicians, and seducers. Lustig understood that. Trust isn't earned through honesty. It's earned by making people feel seen, feel smart, feel like they're winning. And once they feel that way, they'll give you anything. Eiffel Tower con is brilliant, but it's not Lustig's masterpiece. His main scam is simpler, more elegant, more repeatable. The money box. Lustig approaches a wealthy target, usually in a hotel bar or a private club. He's well-dressed, soft-spoken, with a slight European accent. Over drinks, casual, he mentions that he possesses something unusual, a handcrafted device. The target is curious. What does it do? Lustig hesitates. I shouldn't say it's not exactly legal, but after some persuasion, he explains. He leans in and whispers, "The box duplicates money." The target is skeptical, obviously. Lustig understands completely. He would be too. "Forget about it," he says, and resumes small talk. The target says, wait, can you prove it?" Lustig adds offended, then reluctantly says, "Okay, let me demonstrate." He pulls a box from his luggage, mahogany, about the size of a shoebox. Brass fittings, rollers, compartments, chemical bottles. It looks technical, complex, authentic, and expensive. "You insert a bill here," Lustig explains, sliding a $100 bill into the slot. The machine uses a chemical process. It takes about 6 hours, but when the cycle is complete, you have 2 bills. He closes the box, locks it, and sets a timer. Exactly 6 hours, not a minute less, or the process fails, he says. While they wait, they have dinner and play cards. 6 hours later, Lustig opens the box and removes 2 $100 bills. He hands them both to the target. "Examine them, they're both real," he says. The buyer studies the bills carefully. Different serial numbers, both real, both spendable. "How much do you want for it?" Lustig shakes his head. "That's not for sale." Buyer pushes. He offers $5,000, $10,000, $25,000. Finally, reluctantly, Lustig agrees. "It's against my better judgment, but it's a lot of money." Transaction happens quickly. Cash, no paperwork, no witnesses. Lustig hands over the box and a bottle of chemical solution. He warns the buyer to use it sparingly. It's expensive to replace. He gives a fake address where he can be reached if more solution is needed. At a price, of course. The buyer takes the box to his hotel room. He inserts a $100 bill, waits 6 hours, and then opens it. 2 $100 bills. He can barely contain his excitement. It works. He does it again. 6 hours later, same result. Now he's thinking bigger. He inserts a $1,000 bill, waits 6 hours, and opens the box. $1,000 bill, nothing else. He tries again. Nothing. The machine has stopped working. Then reality hits. The box never worked. The duplicate bills were real bills Lustig had prepared in advance, hidden in a false compartment and released by a spring mechanism after 6 hours. Good for 3 demonstrations. That's it. The box itself is just wood, brass, and springs. It's worthless. But the buyer paid $25,000 for it, and by the time he figures this out, Lustig is long gone. The genius of this con is the timer, 6 hours. Long enough for Lustig to be gone when the buyer discovers the truth. Long enough that the buyer's greed has time to build. Long enough that the buyer convinces himself it's real. And the buyer doesn't go to the police because admitting he tried to buy illegal money duplicating machine makes you complicit. You can't report a crime when you were attempting to commit one. Lustig runs his con for over a decade. Different cities, different countries, different victims. He makes a fortune, and he never gets caught. At least not for this. In the 1930s, Lustig is operating primarily in America. He's wealthy, successful, and seemingly untouchable. But it's not enough. He gets involved in something bigger. Real counterfeiting. Not the money box trick, but actual fake currency. Printing high-quality $100 bills. He partners with a chemist named Tom Shaw and an engraver named William Watts. Shaw handles the printing process. Watts makes the plates. Lustig handles the distribution. They're wildly successful. They produce millions of dollars in counterfeit bills. The Secret Service estimates they're finding over $100,000 in fake money every month in New York alone. That's about $2.2 million in today's money. The bills are so good, agents worry it might destabilize the monetary system. A special task force is formed with one goal: take down the counterfeiters. They know Lustig is behind it. They can't find him. He's using alias he's never used in the US before. He has 47 different identities and dozens of fake passports. He switches disguises constantly. One moment he's a suave businessman, the next he's a rabbi or priest. For months it's cat and mouse. But then in May 1935, the Secret Service receives a tip from a woman named Billy May Scheibel, one of Lustig's girlfriends. They have a falling out. She discovers he's been cheating on her with other women. She's jealous, angry, and vindictive. She makes a phone call, tells the Secret Service where he's staying in New York. May 10, 1935, it's a warm Sunday evening. Spring is in the air. Victor strolls down Broadway on the Upper West Side. Elegant as always, he wears a Chesterfield coat with a velvet collar. He's grown a mustache to change his appearance, but Secret Service has a photograph. They recognize the scar, and they make the arrest. Lustig smiles calmly and hands over the suitcase. It contains expensive clothing, but nothing incriminating. But in his wallet, they find a key. Lustig refuses to say what it's for. They trace it to a locker at the Times Square subway station. Inside the locker, they find $51,000 in counterfeit bills and the printing place used to make them. The jig is up. Lustig is taken to the Federal House of Detention in Manhattan. He's held without bail. He's facing a minimum of 15 years for counterfeiting, plus whatever else they can pin on him. But Lustig doesn't panic. He's gotten out of tighter spots than this. August 1935, Lustig has been in custody for 3 months. He lives on the 3rd floor of the detention facility. Supposedly secure, supposedly escape-proof. But Lustig has been working on something. Over several weeks, he's been collecting bed sheets, tearing them into strips, twisting them into a rope. September 1st, 1935, the day before his trial, is scheduled to begin. It's early morning, before dawn. Guards find Lustig's cell empty. The windows open. A rope of bed sheets hang from the bars. Lustig faked an illness and then climbed out of the window while pretending to be a maintenance worker. Witnesses saw him shimmying down the building, but they thought nothing of it. Just a man fixing windows. The Secret Service mobilizes immediately. Wanted posters, roadblocks, surveillance at every train station and bus depot. They claim Victor's armed and dangerous. But he isn't armed, and he's not dangerous. He's just trying to escape. On September 28, agents track him to a boarding house. He shaved off his mustache and put adhesive tape over the scar to appear smooth-faced. But they find him anyway. Lustig tries to escape in a car. The agents chase him 9 blocks until they run him off the road. They draw their guns and surround him. Lustig gets out and calmly surrenders. "Well, boys," he says, "here I am." Lustig stands trial in federal court. His partner, William Watts, agrees to testify for the government. The evidence is overwhelming and Lustig pleads guilty. The verdict? 15 years for counterfeiting, 5 more for the escape, a total of 20 years in Alcatraz. April 1936, The Rock, the most secure prison in America. No one escapes from Alcatraz. Everyone knows that. Lustig is prisoner AZ-300. He's 46 years old, and for the first time in his life, his charm doesn't work. Language doesn't work. Reading people doesn't work. There's no angle, no play, no way out. He spends his day in the cell. No marks, no cons, no games. Just time. Even in Alcatraz, Lustig can't stop completely. He runs small cons on other prisoners. He trades cigarettes and cons inmates out of their commissary. Nothing major, just enough to stay sharp. Because, for Lustig, conning isn't something he does. It's something he is. Over the next 11 years, Lustig files more than 1,100 medical complaints. The guards assume he's lying, trying to work an angle, so they ignore most of them. Eventually, he's transformed from Alcatraz to the Medical Center for Federal Prisoners in Springfield, Missouri. On March 11, 1947, Victor Lustig dies of a pneumonia. He's 57 years old. On his death certificate, his occupation is listed as apprentice salesman and counterfeiter. Victor wasn't a violent criminal. He never hurt anyone physically. He just lied. Elaborate, carefully constructed lies that convinced people to give him money. But his lies destroyed lives. André Poisson, the scrap dealer who tried to buy the Eiffel Tower, lost everything. His savings, his reputation, his business. He became a cautionary tale in the Parisian circles, the fool who fell for the con. He never recovered. He died in 1963, remembered only as the man who tried to buy the Eiffel Tower. Lustig destroyed him with a handshake and a lie. The dozens of people who bought the money box lost fortunes. Some went bankrupt. Lustig didn't force anyone to give him money, didn't threaten, didn't coerce. He just understood what people wanted: status, wealth, shortcut. And he sold them exactly that, at least the illusion of it. Poisson didn't buy the Eiffel Tower because Lustig was clever. He bought it because he was desperate to prove himself, desperate to belong in Parisian society, to be accepted. The buyers who purchased the money box weren't stupid. They were greedy. They wanted easy money. They wanted to cheat the system. They wanted to believe that they found a loophole in reality. Lustig didn't create those desires, he just exploited them. That's what makes him fascinating, because every con he ran required collaboration. The victim had to want it, had to believe it, had to ignore the warning signs because the promise was too seductive. Lustig's genius wasn't technical skill, it was psychological insight, understanding exactly what story someone needed to hear. After Lustig died, the Secret Service tried to calculate his total take. They estimated at least $2 million over his career. In today's money, it's roughly $40 million. But the real number is probably higher, much higher, because most of his victims never reported the crime. When you've been conned, admitting it means admitting you were foolish, greedy, gullible, that you believed in something too good to be true. But people stayed silent, and that meant Lustig could keep running. The Eiffel Tower con worked because Poisson couldn't admit that he'd been fooled. The money box worked because the victims were committing a crime themselves. Every con Lustig ran was built on shame, on people being too embarrassed to ask for help, too proud to admit that they've been had. And that's the real con, not the fake government documents, not the mechanical box with springs and rollers. The real con is making someone believe that silence is better than the truth. We love con artists. We love the audacity, the cleverness, the nerve. We love the idea that someone could sell the Eiffel Tower, that someone could fool everyone, outsmart the authorities, get by on wit alone. We love it because we want to believe it's possible, that the system can be beaten, that you don't have to follow the rules. But Lustig's story doesn't prove that. In fact, it proves quite the opposite. He spent his entire life running, different cities, different names, different cons. He couldn't stop because stopping meant the game was over. And eventually it was. All that cleverness bought him a prison cell and an early death. The Eiffel Tower, of course, is still standing, one of the most recognizable monuments in the world. Millions of people see it every year. And somewhere, maybe in the Provence, there might still be descendants of André Poisson who knew the family story. The one they don't talk about the time their ancestors tried to buy the Eiffel Tower for scrap. Thanks for watching. I'm Henry, and this was What Now?